It's time to get nerdy, y'all.
A little bit of gaming history for you.
Something relevant in gaming and discuss our opinions on it.
Should we kick it out of here, or should we kickstart it?
This is the part where you, the listeners, try to stump the hosts.
I'm not a lawyer. I just play one on a podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, lads and lasses of all ages, welcome to the show. It is Monday, Cinco de Mayo. That is May 5th, and it is time, 2025, and it is time to get nerdy, everybody. Welcome to episode 341 of Two Nerds in a Pod, the nerdiest gaming podcast in the multiverse. I am Maction, one of your co-hosts, and I am joined by my friend in games, in gaming commentary, and in real life as well, although we are separated by a few thousand miles at the moment. It is Mr. Lam Galuka, also known as Mr. Nice Guy 425, and for the next hour, we are going to talk about video games news, history, trivia, and everything in between. But first, Mr. Nice Guy, it's been a week. How you doing, man?
Man, I am doing really, really well, Mac. Had a phenomenal weekend. Did an overnight camp out with my three sons and a group of guys from church, and that was fun. So it was a huge group of people, multiple campsites. And I was in charge of smoking the meat, right? Which is something I love to do. So I smoked like 6 pork butts, and everyone brought in sides, and we had games, and it was great. And one night, and it was a lot of fun. And then the next day, I got to tell you about this. Now, anyone who listens to the pod or knows me knows that I'm a laser tag aficionado. Like, tactical laser tag is my jam. So I try to take my 3 kids that are into it, like, individually sometimes. So they get one-on-one time. So I took my middle son, and we were playing so well, Mac, that they said, will you guys switch teams? Like, it's just unfair, right? And this is like a match of like 17 on 17 or something like that. So it was not like it was 4-on-4. We were just really dominating. I was leading the charge. I was shouting commands, and it was fun. By the end of that match, we switched teams, and we came back and helped the other team to win and overcome the deficit that we had created, which I told my son will go down as one of the most epic moments in laser tag history. And I just wanted to share that with the people, Mac. It was a good week. I was using the AK-47, had a blast.
That is fantastic, dude. Now, I can at least offer some supporting evidence for his claims because I have witnessed firsthand what this man can do, how he can lead a group of children and pummel them into the ground. Because we went and had a fantastic time. Was this at Battle House?
It was, and I love Battle House. I love both laser tag places. Sorry if either of you are listening. I love both of you, the ones that are here in Wisconsin. But you know what's interesting, Mac? The time that you and I went was hilarious because I don't like to play with kids. I like to play with adults. Like, I'll play with my kid if my kids are there. But once you get into the 5, 6, 7-year-old range, I'm like, this is a waste of my time. The time when Mac and I went, there was a birthday party happening. So it was mostly kids. But this weekend when I went, it was mostly like more mature people. So it was like equal skill somewhat, right? So it was fun. Mac, what's new with you?
Oh, man, I wish I could say that there was a lot going on in my life right now. Honestly, not that much. I did get some good news, and that is that I might be moving a little bit closer to where I work, which would be cool.
Nice! That's always good.
Yeah, I'm going to, temper my expectations and not count these chickens before they hatch, as they say, but I am cautiously optimistic that in like a month or two, I'm gonna need your help. So, we'll have you fly out.
Okay.
You can help me box up some things.
Okay, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, I think so. But yeah, so I'm cautiously optimistic that there's some good times on the horizon for me. Because the commute's a pain.
Oh, I'm sure it is. Now, would this put you more in proximity with actual people?
Oh, yes.
As opposed to cows and deer and whatnot. Maybe you'll have some. You have good internet now, but maybe like some more high-speed internet, fiber even.
I will have wired internet instead of cell tower based internet, which is what I have right now. So it would be an improvement. Latency and lag would go significantly down, and who knows? Maybe I could play a multiplayer game every so often.
Let the Left 4 Dead and tabletop simulator games begin.
Yes. So anyway, it's not a done deal yet, but it's looking like it might be happening. So I'll keep you apprised. But that's about the most exciting thing that's been going on in my life lately.
Well, Mac, I say we do what we do best and we talk about something that's very exciting and we hop right up in that gaming news. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. Mr. Nice Guy, what is new in video gaming?
So much. And this is episode 341 of Two Nerds in a Pod, nerdiest video game podcast in the galaxy. Thank you for tuning in live and or after the fact. Mac, I don't have the chat pulled up. Last week, we missed some dope comments in the chat because we weren't looking at the chat enough. So this week, let's make sure that you and I are both checking the chat. Apologies to everyone who was talking, particularly our good friend G, who had some awesome commentary that we missed live. This first news story is on IGN.com, written by Rachel Weber. Here's what Rachel writes. Happy Monday. Microsoft just announced Gears of War Reloaded, a remaster of the original 2006 game that will launch on August 26th. Wait for it, on Xbox. Wait for it, PC, and PlayStation. The shiny new version will come with improved visuals and audio crossplay and cross-progression, and all the DLC from Gears of War Ultimate Edition. Quote, as we approach the 20th anniversary of Gears of War in 2026, we're reflecting on what the franchise means. It's about the stories we've told, the friendships we've built, and the unforgettable moments we've shared together. With Gears of War Reloaded, we're opening that door to more players than ever, says Mike Crump, studio head at the Coalition, in the announcement post. Not only do PlayStation owners get to play, but love can be shared across console barricades. It goes on to say that Gears of War Reloaded is built for shared play, whether you're teaming up in split screen or jumping online. The campaign supports 2-player co-op, and versus multiplayer allows up to 8 players with cross-play across all platforms, blah, 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 blah. Mac, I'm about sharing. I think sharing is caring. But Gears of War, historically an Xbox exclusive. Any level of excitement, number one, for you on Gears of War coming back to every console, because you could do it on the Steam Deck. And thoughts on it being multiplat?
Gears of War, it's a franchise that I never really got into, but really excited for a remaster and the ability for people to play cross-platform. I don't have a PlayStation 3, but I know, or a PlayStation 5, I guess.
What year is it, Mac?
3.
What year is it? It's not 2006, 2008. What are you talking about?
Fair. Wow. But I am absolutely excited that people will get a chance to play with their people who are on PlayStation 5 and the like. And that is great news for gamers generally. Now, Galvatron just does want to know that, and I think we're gonna get to this, Galvatron, but talking about some issues with the hardware business, price hacks or
of course we're gonna talk about that.
So,
of course we're gonna talk about that.
We're getting there, Galvatron, and I'll read your comment when we hit that. But yeah, I'm excited for people to be able to play with people on other consoles, 100%.
So here's my biggest thing on remakes. I think they're doing it right here.
Okay.
And the reason why is because when you create a remake or a remaster, the goal should be to either expose a new generation to the game. Well, I won't even say or. I'll say also to make sure that those who enjoyed the game before can enjoy it again with modern conveniences, right? Quality of life improvements, better graphics, improve the controls and make them more modern day. And a big part of that to me, Mac, is making sure that all the game modes exist. So when The Last of Us Part 1 was remastered, a little bit frustrated that it didn't include the factions mode, the multiplayer.
Okay.
I get it. You got to come out with new servers. You have to do a lot of different things. And granted, they didn't wait 20 years to do that like the Gears of War folks have done, right? We're coming up on that 20th year anniversary. But I still feel like if you're going to do it right and include the multiplayer. Don't leave that out and say this is all about the single player, because you know perfectly well that there was a community for the multiplayer in these types of games. So I'm glad that they're doing it right with Gears of War. As someone who doesn't care about multiplayer, I'm sure you don't care. But think of a game where you did play multiplayer, Mac. A game like maybe a GoldenEye.
No, I can name several right off the top of my head. Obviously, Mario Kart, GoldenEye, things like that. But more recently, something like Stardew Valley, or even I'm currently playing through It Takes Two with a friend. Multiplayer is fantastic, and I love that there are experiences that are single player. I love that there are experiences that are multiplayer. I do care, and I do love it. I just, I don't know, Gears of War didn't speak to me at the time. But Mr. Nice Guy, do you think it would speak to me now? What you know of me, do you think Gears of War is a Mac game?
I don't see a universe where Gears of War is something that excites you. I really
Okay.
don't. It's a third-person shooter.
Mhm.
It's just like excessively gory.
Well, I don't know. I really enjoyed Resident Evil 5.
Yeah, that's true. I won't say that you wouldn't like the story, but I think that the type of gameplay is not the type of gameplay that you would be interested in. Just from what I know of you and the type of games you like to play. Halo's one thing. Gears of War is a completely different thing.
Gotcha. Well, I might not be leaning toward Gears of War Reloaded, but I'm just thrilled that people are going to be able to play it with their friends on other platforms. Love that journey for them.
Yeah, me too. Well, cool. Let's keep it moving. And someone already alluded to this in the chat. I was thinking about saving it for topic of the week, but we'll talk about it now. Let's talk about Xbox.
Okay.
This news story comes from cnet.com, and we may kind of pull from two news stories for this. This is written by Zach McAuliffe. Zach writes, get ready to pay more for Xbox consoles and some games. Microsoft raised the recommended retail pricing of its Xbox Series S and X consoles, controllers, and headsets on Thursday. This, by the way, was written on May 4th, so it's been a few days since this happened. The company also announced then that it plans to raise the prices of new first-party games from $70 to $80 this holiday season, matching the cost of some new Nintendo Switch 2 games. I talked about this before.
You did.
And how it could set a trend.
I don't think you said how it could set a trend. I think you were like, how this will set the trend. I think you deserve more credit than that.
And it didn't take very long. Let's read what he has to say about the hardware. We're going to skip a little bit ahead. He says, Microsoft's recommended retail pricing for consoles and controllers is staggering. The company is suggesting an $80 price hike for the Series S 512GB version, the most affordable Xbox console Microsoft sells. This takes the price of the 5-year-old console from $300 to $380. The Xbox Series X 1TB is getting a $100 increase, increasing it from $500 to $600, and the Xbox Series X 2TB Galaxy Black Special Edition now costs $730, which makes the eye-watering $700 price tag of a PlayStation Pro seem more reasonable. And then, Mac, just for reference, the base Xbox wireless controller has recommended a price of $65, up from $60, and the high-end wireless controller Series 2 is going up to $200 from $145. Headsets are going up too, but I think that's enough information. I'm interested to hear what you think about this and what the viewers think. Like, do we think this is a tariff thing, or do we think it's Microsoft capitalizing on the tariff thing to charge people more for something that's 5 years old?
Sure. Back of the envelope calculation, that looks like a 20% bump in price from $300 to $380. I might be underselling that, but that sounds about like
you're underselling it. But but it's a lot, right?
It's definitely a lot. Look, you know me. I am incredibly skeptical of the proclaimed claims of any company about why it is they're doing what they're doing. Whether it's Nintendo saying, we gotta issue cease and desists or else we'll lose Donkey Kong, which is lies. Or back when we were talking about, in the early post-COVID times, when it was just like, oh, well, we have to charge all this extra because of supply chain disruptions. And it was like, so wait a minute, you've got... Yeah, which also turned out to be particularly disingenuous. So I agree with I would certainly take what you said as being likely, that this is just an attempt to go ahead and capitalize on the fact that there is a easy scapegoating to be able to be like, oh, look, these old consoles that we have sitting around that were manufactured 4.5 years ago, they're so much more expensive now. Now, Galvatron in the chat does bring up his take on it, that by doing this, it's going to help them they want to get out of the low margin of profits that the
Oh,
hardware
right.
side of things, and that this is just a convenient way to try and get farther out of that and into the cloud gaming and licensing. I mean, I hear you, Galvatron, and I mean that's certainly one of the things that we saw back in the earlier Xbox days when they were like, oh yeah, no, digital only, and you'll just stream it. They're like, oh, you want discs? Well, we've got a product for you. It's called the Xbox 360. And, they backtracked on that a little bit, but yeah. Let's see.
That may have been the Xbox One that you're thinking of, but your point is well taken.
Ah, right.
But yeah, so I mean, Galvatron. Here's my thing before I read another comment.
Sure.
So it is the tariff thing, I believe, but it's also Nintendo having set the stage, right? We've already alluded to this. Nintendo says we're raising the prices, and Microsoft says, hey, we're going to do the same thing. The difference is that Nintendo is about to come out with something new, and they're doing it. Something new, shiny, that people don't have yet. The Switch 2, and then a bunch of new games that people have been waiting for, because we haven't gotten a new Mario Kart in a while. We didn't get one last gen. They just came out with Mario Kart 8 and then had some DLC that you could get if you had Switch Online in the form of new tracks. Microsoft's value proposition, in my mind, has not improved enough to justify the price hike. Because one, this isn't a new console, and two, they tout themselves as the play it anywhere company.
Mm-hmm.
Play it on your Steam Deck if you want to. You can play cloud gaming on your Steam Deck. Play it on your PC.
Sure.
You can buy, I forget what those little controllers are. I actually have one somewhere. The Backbone controller. Connect it to your iPhone, and you can play on your iPhone. So the idea of now saying the ability to play these games that you can play anywhere else on the box that we sell means that box should be more expensive than it has been for the past 5 years is absurd, no matter what is going on in the world. Because people who are really hardcore into Xbox, I would love to see a survey of how many of them are actually playing on a physical Xbox. I have an Xbox Series X, and I tell you what, it's a Fortnite machine. It's behind me on this table. My one son plays on the PlayStation or on his phone. My other son plays on this other TV with the Xbox, and he almost plays exclusively Fortnite, or the other kids play Roblox, and I don't ever use it. It's an overpowered machine that's getting underutilized, and I have to think that there's many households where that's the case. I don't know why anyone would rush out and buy an Xbox right now. G in the chat summarizes it well. He says, this is Microsoft using the tariffs to raise prices because them paying $68.7 billion to acquire Activision Blizzard, has come nowhere close to paying for itself. Xbox Division sales have been down for a few quarters. That's going to take some time for them to break even on the Activision Blizzard thing. But I believe that was a good purchase in terms of profitability.
Definitely. Lots of beloved titles in Activision Blizzard. So, they'll make it back eventually.
I am interested to see how this affects the price of the rumored Xbox handheld when it comes out. Mm-hmm. If Microsoft is going to be setting these ridiculous precedents for their hardware, what is the Xbox hardware or the Xbox handheld going to cost? And what is it going to do that's different than the gaming PCs that you and I and many others have access to? That's a conversation for another day. Mac, you know what, man? Like, there's other news stories. I don't even know if I really want to dive in. We talked Gears of War. We talked Xbox.
Yeah.
That's news for the week. That's news.
All right. Well, then let's turn a little bit to some video game history. Before I get started on some of the exciting, wild things that happened this last week in years before, I do want to pose a question for y'all to think about. That's you at home, you here live, and you, Mr. Nice Guy. And that is, what is a professional gamer? But we'll come back to that. Just percolate on it. Think about it. So, May 1st, 1982, Lucasfilm founded a game studio. It was called Lucasfilm Games, and in 1990, they changed their name to LucasArts. Now, a lot of the times, what LucasArts was doing and what Lucasfilm's Games was doing was publishing or licensing various intellectual properties out to, other people, obviously.
Sure.
We know, of course, some of the bangers that they produced was, for example, Labyrinth, the game in 1986, which on the Commodore 64 outsold the tickets of Labyrinth at the box office. It was a better performing game on just the Commodore 64 than it was in the movie theaters, in spite of it being a delightful and beloved film from my childhood, at least. I don't know if you guys watched. Did you watch Labyrinth as a kid?
Dude, of course I watched the Labyrinth.
Of course you watched.
You sing that song all the time, and I
Dance, magic, dance.
It's a good movie. Like
Yeah.
the one thing I remember is there's like a lake you could fall in that you'd never get the stink off.
Yeah, the Bog of Eternal Stench.
Yeah, man. Great movie.
No. Great movie, and it's shocking that that the game had better sales. But either way, carrying on so many other things like Maniac Mansion, and games like that. Then, of course, Lucasfilm's games really gets into the sort of adventure game genre with things like Indiana Jones and The Fate of Atlantis, a top 10 point-and-click adventure game. Day of the Tentacle, a top 5 point-and-click of all-time point-and-click adventure game. Full Throttle, a top 3 point-and-click adventure game. And The Dig, which might be top 2 point-and-click.
I'm gonna test you on this. If that's top 3, what are the other 2?
Legend of Kyrandia and The Dig.
Oh, Walking Dead is not in there? Okay.
Oh, no. Are you kidding me? Nah. No, I'm just kidding. It's a fantastic game. But Lucasfilm games, absolutely many bangers, especially in the point-and-click adventure genre. Something that they really helped bring really into a new era. Now, obviously, then the 90s, there wasn't that much going on for point-and-click adventure games, but also same with Lucasfilm games. They transitioned eventually into being, more of just licensing things out. Occasionally, they'd put out a game here or there. Some of them okay, some of them not so. And then in the 20-teens, we were super excited by the prospect of Star Wars 1313, which was the last game that the Lucasfilms game was going to put out until, of course, they scrapped the project and shut down, and we never got Star Wars 1313, which is a huge shame. But that's how it goes sometimes. You miss out on some of your favorites because they close down the company.
It sucks.
It does. But that's Lucasfilm's games. Well, Mr. Nice Guy, I'm going to come back to that question about what is a professional gamer before I go on to the next little bit of history. What do you think, Mr. Nice Guy? What makes somebody not just a gamer, but a professional gamer?
So it's interesting, and we could go back and forth, but for simplicity and based on our time, I will say a professional gamer is someone who is paid to play video games, right? Because there's so many different areas that they can fall into. They could fall into the speed running, they could fall into the competitive, or they could fall into the simply entertaining. And Mac, I have to use this analogy from Breaking Bad of the scene where Saul Goodman tells Walter White to give him $1. And then says, "You have now given me $1. That makes me your lawyer, and now we have attorney-client privilege. So you can tell me what's going on, and I feel no obligation to break that privilege." If it's that simple to be considered a lawyer, then I think that there's probably a pretty low bar as well for being a professional gamer, someone who gets paid.
I do love a reference to Better Call Saul. I do believe, however, that most codes of ethics for lawyers means that you're not supposed to participate in acts that are criminal. But anyway, just there's always that one little hang up. But fantastic nonetheless. I've usually heard it one of two ways. One is exactly the way that you represented it, that somebody getting paid to play video games. And then I've heard the other one, which is a slightly more narrow view, that you need to be sponsored buy a company in order to be a professional gamer. And I think that probably comes from like the sensibility of when people think about like Formula One racing or Tour de France, they think a lot of, you know, those types of people. And it's just like the sponsorship is really what makes you, you know, a professional and not a hobbyist or even a very talented hobbyist. Now, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that, but those are just the ones that I've kind of heard. But I am proud to say that it is May that we have, by either definition, that we have what I would say is our first historical professional gamers. A pair of professional gamers.
Interesting.
It's in the 1970s, so we're not even going to Twin Galaxies and the 1982 thing. We're going all the way back to 1977. Because in May of 1977, there is a game called Gremlin Games, right? They're an arcade company out of California. And they had made a game that is essentially Snake. You know, Snake, like you play on your Nokia phone or and such.
Do you remember QBasic? I gotta ask. Did you ever use QBasic on your PC back in the day?
I didn't use QBasic back in the day.
That was a game that was on there.
Yeah?
And there was another game where you would like throw bananas based on height and velocity that you typed in. Anyway, first time I played Snake, had to bring that up.
No.
Or Nibbles.
Fantastic. Well, so they had this arcade game that essentially was Snake, as we would kind of understand it today. But the arcade game did not do so well. Not a lot of people were buying the units, so they had a lot of units left. And with some small modifications, they were able to turn the game the game Blockade into a new game called Hustle, which had a lot of the same things going on, but was retooled just a little bit so that it had like the 2-player mode, and you could do head-to-head on this version of Snake in 77, and that's when they released it. But lest they fall into the exact same trap that they did with Blockade, they wanted to be able to make this game more appealing to gamers, and so they started the first this incredible competition where they said, "Hey, if you can beat our professional gamers, we will give you a crisp $100 bill," which at that time would have been much closer to $500 in the 70s.
Right.
You know, but they're like, "We will give you $100 cash if you can beat either of our professionals, our Gremlin girls, Sabrina Osment and Lynn Reed." Our first professional video gamers come to us in the 1970s, courtesy of Gremlin. They did a tour of 19 cities where they went around. They played thousands of games against other people. Apparently, according to Gremlin, they only paid out fewer than 5 times. Fewer than 5 people across 19 cities and thousands of games were ever able to beat Sabrina Osment and Lynn Reed at Hustle, the game. So a fantastic return on investment, because not only did they start professional gaming, as far as I can find, this is the earliest historical professional gaming I can find, not only just of somebody who got paid for video games, but also somebody who was officially sponsored to play video games and paid. So also, though, it allowed them to basically sell out all of their copies of Hustle, as word got around that if you could beat them. So obviously people are like, "Oh, you got to get Hustle in. We got to practice. I want to get $500 for playing against some girls. Of course we'll beat them." You know, such was the style of the time. But yeah, this year, this week in 1977, we can credit for quite probably the beginning of professional gaming, the beginning of esports, maybe. I think it all goes back to 77, because what even is esports? So, until you can prove me wrong, I'm saying it. 1977, Sabrina Osment and Lynn Reed started it all.
Interesting. Galvatron has an interesting take on what a professional gamer is.
Ooh.
That's going to stay in the archives of the internet, though. References to Cheetos and basements and other things. We'll leave it at that. Well, Mac, thank you for that. And did you have something else to say?
No, that's history for us.
Well, now it is time for our topic of the week, a segment where we discuss something relevant in gaming and give our opinions on it. And you know what, Mac? I think I might have closed the window, which would be very on brand. I do this all the time, but I pressed back and now it's back. Thank you, technology. This is on GameInformer.com, written by Kyle Hilliard. Here's what Kyle writes. Grand Theft Auto 6, which may be the most highly anticipated game of all time, an admittedly difficult metric to quantify, he says, has been delayed to May 26th, 2026. The game was set to release sometime this year, with periodic soft assurances from Take-Two CEO Strauss Zelnick that the game was on track. But that is no longer the case. In a statement on social media, Rockstar Games announced the delay and wrote, "We are very sorry that this is later than you expected. The interest and excitement surrounding a new Grand Theft Auto has been truly humbling for our entire team. We want to thank you for your support and your patience as we work to finish the game." Mac, I want to read this next paragraph for context. It says, Rockstar Games have historically and consistently received delays following their announcement, so while the push is disappointing, it is not unexpected. We still don't know how much of the game beyond its so far only official trailer, which quickly garnered me. This is written really hard to read. Bottom line, Mac, the game is delayed.
Yeah.
And I guess my question for you, as someone who, I know you're not into Rockstar, I know you're not into Grand Theft Auto, but the premise of saying something's going to be coming this year and then pushing it 12 months, we don't see it in any other form of media, as far as I can tell. Why do we, or do you think we do? I see you contemplating.
I mean, anybody who's a fan of the Game of Thrones series, you've been waiting an awful long time for Winds of Winter from George R.R. Martin. And I don't know. I'm trying to think of, I'm sure that there are some movies that get delayed, but Nice Guy, I think maybe you and I just might be so into the gaming sphere that maybe there's other media that we get that from, but we just don't see it because we're not in it, maybe?
Okay, that's fair. So maybe I should quantify that by saying it's the only form of entertainment where things get delayed and it's not due to some type of external pressure. For example, COVID or a writer's strike or some type of worldly event like tariffs delaying the pre-order date for the Nintendo Switch. I feel like this is internal companies sometimes saying, hey, we just haven't been able to get it done and we're not going to hit this date. But sometimes I actually feel like it's a tactic. Because Bethesda delays games all the time, and they're known for putting out awesome games that are notoriously buggy. They're also known for 1 year announcing Fallout 4 at E3 and then releasing it like 3 months later. So I feel like these big game companies, if they want to get it done, they can. I feel like it's really a tactic at this point for Rockstar.
Or there's absolutely the completely stealth release of Oblivion Remastered.
Right.
So sometimes we don't even hear.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, that to me, that's a great example because to me, that's a big enough deal that they could have built hype around that.
Sure.
There were rumors of it, and in fact, there was even a group of people who were working on a mod that was pretty well known in the gaming community. I believe it was called Skyblivion, and that got released, and I'm sure they were super sad that they had spent all this time working on something, but that's life, right?
Well, I will say, just to give a little bit of kudos to Bethesda, because they released, or when they released Oblivion Remastered, instead of sending like a cease and desist to the fans, the modders who were making Skyblivion, they sent them all free copies of Oblivion Remastered and was just like, hey, you guys are awesome. Keep doing what you do. And it's just like, yes, that is how you treat your community.
Yeah, 100%. That's the way to do it. I guess my thing with Rockstar and Grand Theft Auto is they absolutely have the time and the resources to get a game out on time. And so the idea of not only saying it's coming out at this point, but then also reassuring the community, it's silly to me. And I don't know that the game is not done. I mean, obviously the game is not done, but I don't know that they actually believed it was going to be done on time.
Or whether or not they believe that it's going to be done in May. I'm seeing some skepticism in the chat. Galvatron says that Red Dead Redemption 2 and GTA 5 both got more than one delay. So do we expect GTA 6 to even be released in May 2026? This is its first delay. Yes, but what about second delay?
You know what? I'll say this. We don't need new games as frequently as we used to. GTA 5, I believe, came out in 2013 on the PS3 and the Xbox 360, and it's since been released on the subsequent consoles that came out afterwards, right? Much like Skyrim and many other games. And because they do have the cash cow and the thing that still gets so much attention in the form of GTA Online, they're probably in absolutely no rush to put out something new. I'll also say this. When Grand Theft Auto came out, GTA 5, they released the story mode and then didn't release the online until a while later. So we have people doing GTA role plays. We have so much content being created, and we still have people investing their time and money into that aspect of it. It's aged well because they've kept it up to date. And so I think maybe they want to suck another year out of it. And maybe, Mac, maybe, just maybe, they don't even release a new GTA Online. They just release a new single player in the form of GTA 6 and keep the old online as is with new missions related to GTA 6. I think that's what they do.
It could certainly be the case. I just hope that when they release GTA 6, that it has taken the time to fully bake in the oven of video game development. An extra year, maybe that serves to be the better part for this video game. Who knows?
Super excited to play it when it comes out. I'm curious from the chat, do you think that they put a new online component, or do you think that they just continue to add on to the games as service model that they've already done? That has been our topic of the week.
All right. Well, now we turn to a crowdfunding project that's trying to get off of the ground. We call this, of course, Kick or Kickstart, because we take a look at a crowdfunding project. We say whether or not it should be kickstarted or kicked out of here. And Mr. Nice Guy, I have to admit, I'm gonna post it here in the chat.
Okay.
I don't have that much hope for this specifically.
Okay.
But before we get to it, I just wanted to say that there is another Wormwood gaming table Kickstarter going up, and I know I bring it up every time they do it, but these guys never complete their previous projects before they do a new one, and they always get funded every single time. People scramble, and then you look at the comments on a thing or the updates, and they're just like, oh, our warehouse is at capacity. It's just like, if it's at capacity, why haven't you delivered on your previous things? Anyway.
Right. Stop making new stuff.
As always, skip the Kickstarters on the big projects. Try and support the small creators, the way Kickstarter was meant to be used. All right, on to the real stuff.
That's right.
Revival Games. This is a Kickstarter project. It is almost quite probably doomed to failure at the outset. Sorry for throwing it out there like that, but let's be real. I appreciate the goals, and I think the idea is noble, and it won't work for a variety of reasons. So let's talk about this Kickstarter, right? The idea is that these people are on a mission to save the online games that have been shut down. They have a whole list of games that they are like, oh, these would be our top games for what we would try and bring back, including, not too far down the list, is Gotham City Imposters.
What?
Yeah, but also things like City of Heroes, Lawbreakers, Need for Speed Edge, Infinity Blade Saga. And it's kind of a surprise to see 300. They've got a list of them, but like, it's kind of a surprise to see 300 games that are online that have been shuttered, and see them all put in one list. But basically, their plan is, we're kickstarting money to cover the legal costs and the server hosting and the licensing fees needed to revive live service games, whichever ones they get started with first. And I appreciate the goals. I think this is the type of thing that needs to be addressed just because of how many live service games have gone away. But this is absolutely not going to work, I don't think. Mr. Nice Guy, I don't want to. I want to give you a chance to throw some shade.
I mean, I guess that this is a cool idea in concept, but I guess there's maybe 2 or 3 points that I would share as to why I think this is going to be an uphill battle. Number one, they're talking about legal costs, and I don't think that they are realizing what the legal costs will be of going out and purchasing all of these assets. Especially when like Gotham City Imposters probably has a lot of Batman references. It's not just going to Gotham City Imposters; it's going to DC. And try to get permission. So that's super tough. The other thing I'll say is that communities where games get shut down that have a big enough community, they will find a way to bring it back, right, in some form or another, whether it's GoldenEye Source or some type of other homebrew way. Those communities that are big enough have already found a way to do this. And the third thing I will say is that there's just way too many games to do this, because someone kickstarts your project and then they say, what about this game that you said you were going to bring back? Where are we at? Oh, and what about this other game that's obscure that I loved and had a niche community that you haven't even thought about? Like, it's just too big in scope to be able to be...
Yes. And also, you would have to think about what makes it worth it to a company. Let's say they go to, whoever it is, I don't know who did Lawbreakers, but they walk up to whoever did Lawbreakers and they said, hey, we're willing to pay you for the licensing in order for us to host servers for this game. I think that's a fantastic idea, but like whoever controls the rights for Lawbreakers, what kind of price tag would they need to license that out to somebody else? And I guarantee you that a Kickstarter for $61,000 is not going to be enough to fund even the initial ask on hosting, the live service for a video game that has gone away. Even just one, not, to say nothing of the framework that they're trying to get in order to do many. So yeah, uphill.
Consider the fact that probably a lot of these games have been delisted and that a lot of them are not crossplay. So when you say in your Kickstarter that you're going to bring back Gotham City Imposters, one of my favorites of all time, are you bringing it back for Xbox or PlayStation or PC or all of them? And because those are 3 different places for people to play, is there going to be a big enough community that 1 is aware and 2 is interested that you're bringing it back to justify the money and the time that you spent to do that?
Yeah. And even in that situation, probably the default is going to be probably just PC. But then are you going to have enough people, because PC would be the easiest to do it for, but then are you going to have enough people interested in order to support the servers that you're putting up for the PC only of this specific live service game? Lots and lots of things. But I think I will say this. I know that I'm pretty harsh on a lot of Kickstarters saying, hey, bring me a playable demo. And there's a lot of reasons for that. But I think about what would a playable demo have constituted in the context of this, right?
Right.
I think revival games, we live in a time where trust is kind of hard to come by. And you don't have any history of bringing back live service games. You don't really have a digital footprint of projects that you've done before. We appreciate and we care about the fight to try and make sure that this art is playable in the future. But what you could do to make this better is find any live service game that has been, that has gone by the wayside. find somebody, even if it's a cruddy little thing, even if it's number 299 on the list, and it's from some company that went defunct and nobody's bought up the IP rights or whatever, at the very least, show us that you can survive the technological hurdle of bringing back a live service game, even if it's not one I'm interested in. And that would be enough for me to at least keep the conversation going. You know what I mean, Mr. Nice Guy? It's just, I see no evidence here that they could even do the thing. As much as I love the idea, there's no evidence that they could even do the thing if they had the money, you know?
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I could go on about this for a while, but I think I shared my thoughts and the reasons why I would say kick this rather than kickstart it.
Yeah, and I would say kick it as well for those reasons and more. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's a good idea. We like what they're trying to accomplish, and maybe someday somebody will. But I don't think it'll be these folks.
Yeah, best of luck to you, though.
Yeah, that's been Kick or Kickstart.
Well, cool. Now it is time, ladies and gentlemen, for Nerd Flex. A segment where you, the viewers, try to stump the host. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. If you're here live, you have a job to do. Please get a multiple choice gaming-related question in the chat. Mac and I will use nothing but our noggins to try and answer. No Google, no phone a friend, none of that. And we also have a test bank here of randomly generated from the library questions that we'll try to answer. So we'll start there today. Mac, this is not a sound test episode, is it?
It is not. We had that one in 339.
Okay, cool. Well, dude, the stars align because we have a Rockstar question, as we've been talking about Rockstar today. As the first random question, it says, what was Rockstar's first game release on the Xbox 360? What was Rockstar's first game release on the Xbox 360? Now, I can think of a couple different ones.
Would Bully have been one of them?
Bully was original. So I first played Bully on the Nintendo Wii, Bully Scholarship Edition. So yeah, it could have been Bully. It also could have been something like L.A. Noire, where I think Rockstar was more like the publisher rather than the developer. Mm-hmm. It could have even been like a GTA Vice City, where that version was first. And I'm trying to think which of those games came first. Bully is not a bad guess. But they've also had a lot of other games, Mac, like Red Dead Revolver, sure. Which is the predecessor to Red Dead Redemption.
Which is the predecessor to Red Dead Redemption 2, as we all know.
Nice. That it sure is. And I'm actually kind of leaning towards saying something. There's also Manhunt. I think that was on, maybe that was on the original Xbox. I'm thinking it might be Red Dead Revolver, dude.
Okay.
I could be wrong, and that could be original Xbox.
Tell you what, if you want to go Red Dead Revolver, I'll stick with my initial guess of Bully.
Yeah, let me just think.
Yeah.
Because Red Dead Redemption came out on Xbox 360 as well. The original. So it really could be Red Dead Revolver. I'm going to go Red Dead Revolver. And you're going with what?
I'll go with Bully.
Oh my gosh. It was Rockstar Games presents Table Tennis. So lame.
That's beautifully lame.
That was a yellow card too. That should have been a red one.
Yeah, definitely should have been a hard one. Well, we've got a question in the chat from Galvatron if you'd like me to go for it.
Let's do it.
The question is, who is the only current NFL coach whose likeness is not used in Madden 25? Andy Reid, Pete Carroll, Mike Tomlin, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Sean Payton, Deion Sanders, and then the last one, which we're of course meant to discount, is reference Bill Belichick's girlfriend. No idea who that is. Neither.
So did he say the only current NFL coach?
Yes, the only current NFL coach.
I might have to give up my sports card, but I don't think Deion Sanders is an NFL coach. He's still coaching college, unless I just haven't been following the news. So I feel like that's a trick question, because I don't believe he's an NFL coach right now.
Okay. Well, yeah, I don't know. I have no idea. I don't follow people, just the theory of sports ball.
His son just got drafted.
Oh, good for him. He must be very proud.
Yeah, and I know I remember hearing something about... Anyway, I think it's Deion Sanders.
Okay, we'll go with Deion Sanders' final answer.
Watch it be Andy Reid, and like just because he hates video games or something. But I'm going with Deion Sanders.
He says Sean Payton. He left the NFL Coaches Association,
Really?
so his likeness could not be used. And A.R. Wilson is confirming your comment that that Deion Sanders is still currently a college coach. So it was what we would call a distractor answer.
But it also means that he's not, that it was right?
No, it was who is the only current NFL coach whose likeness is not used. So, it was that one. It was always going to be wrong, Deion Sanders. But I don't know left from right when it comes to college coaches or
that's okay.
NFL coaches.
That's
whatever.
okay. That is okay. Well, let's move on. So, Mac, we have a special round here, and I feel like this is a ridiculous question.
Love it.
But it's the one that came up randomly, so we're going to do it. Special round, name 3 of Mario's enemies. Name 3 of Mario's enemies.
All right. Lakitu.
The
Goomba.
Goomba?
Yeah.
Bowser.
Yeah. Who else we got?
Lenny Koopa.
Yes.
All the Koopa
kids. We could do, what are those? Shy Guys.
Yeah, Shy Guys are a good one.
Those
Bullet
flowers. Bullet Bill. Yeah, there's those chain. Is it Chain Chomp? Chain Chomp.
Or yeah, Chain Chomp. Yeah.
And then there are those fire Chain Chomps as well from Mario 3. I still live in fear of those guys.
I think we got 3.
We definitely nailed 3 more. I wonder what the card has for 3.
Let's see what the card says. Okay, Chain Chomp, Bowser, and Kamek. We didn't get Kamek.
Kamek, that's right. That wizard.
Well, hey, that has been our Nerd Flex for the week.
Lovely. Well, now we turn to a little bit of legalese.
Legalese.
So this is about, surprisingly, Epic v. Apple.
Surprise, surprise.
Because way back in 2020, that's when everything kicked off. And before we get going, I cannot stress enough that neither Epic nor Apple is your friend. Both of these companies have done stuff that should have got them probably shut down for good. See episodes 136, 153, blah, 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 220, 266, 301, and many others for more details. But when Epic and Apple wound up, being at odds, what happened was Apple had a contract that you had to sign in order to put your games into their app store.
Right.
It's been materially pretty much the same contract since 2017, if not longer, and the compensation rates have been the same since probably 2012. Epic did not like paying the money that they contractually agreed to pay on every single purchase, so they engineered a workaround for Fortnite. They put their workaround in place 3 months before turning it on and hid it as though it were something completely different. Epic then activated their workaround, and when Apple found out about it, Epic gets shut out of their app store, as was Epic's agreed punishment for that kind of nonsense as per their contract. Epic obviously lied to the public and claimed that this was all about them standing up for the gamer and for freedom, which they admitted was a complete and total fiction created to sell their PR narrative to the public, as they said,
for liberty!
Yes. The lawsuit went back and forth, and Apple mostly wins the case. With one big thing that Apple had to give up, is that they could not stop people from going around their payment system anymore, and that means that you, as the person who's playing Fortnite or any other game that's on an Apple device, you can be linked to buy your virtual currency outside of the Apple app, and the developer can also let you know in emails or whatever means they want that buying directly from them is an option. Apple did not appreciate that hit to their potential sales, and they did a lot of nonsense to circumvent the court's order, and I'll quote from the court's finding, quote, at every turn chose the most anti-competitive option, end quote. Among other things, they started imposing a 27% cut of any purchase made off-app, since they are aware of how many virtual bucks are exchanged inside the app. They could basically reverse engineer those figures and say, hey, Epic, you owe us a 27% cut of whatever, or, to whomever they say. And they imposed big, scary splash screens to try and keep people from following those links out of the app. There was a bunch of back and forth, a bunch of delays, a bunch of so on, and what we got recently was the judge who's made their finding on all of this. And Lom, I sent you a couple paragraphs via email, and this is the final 2 paragraphs of the introduction before the judge gets into the specific facts, just laying out what all's going on. Mr. Nice Guy, would you kindly read that for us?
To hide the truth, Vice President of Finance Alex Roman outright lied under oath. Internally, Philip Schiller had advocated that Apple comply with the injunction, but Tim Cook ignored Schiller and instead allowed Chief Financial Officer Luca Maestri and his finance team to convince him otherwise. Cook chose poorly. The real evidence derailed herein more than meets the clear and convincing standard to find a violation. The court refers the matter to the United States Attorney for the Northern District of California to investigate whether criminal contempt proceedings are appropriate. This is an injunction, not a negotiation. There are no do-overs once a party willfully disregards a court order. Time is of the essence. The court will not tolerate further delays. As previously ordered, Apple will not impede competition. The court enjoins Apple from implementing its new anti-competitive acts to avoid compliance with the injunction. Effective immediately, Apple will no longer impede developers' ability to communicate with users, nor will they levy or impose a new commission on off-app purchases.
Just, Mr. Nice Guy, you're a pretty insightful guy. You get any anger, frustration off of that?
Yeah, because, there's one point where they repeat themselves. They say, well, no longer will Apple do this. No longer will Apple do this. Mm-hmm. Time is of the essence. Uh-huh. A lot of times when people repeat something, so it says Apple will not impede competition, and then it says later, Apple will no longer impede developers' ability to communicate. So, it's basically saying the exact same thing twice. They're pissed.
Oh, yeah, they're pissed. I especially like this is an injunction, not a negotiation. There are no do-overs. There's some good lines, and those are just the ones. There's some good lines deeper in the filing, but that was just some good ones from there. But the judge has had enough, and so we'll see. That's kind of where we stand. Just to throw it out there again, Apple did a bad thing. I hope they suffer some big consequences for it. Epic has also been doing the bad things. I hope they too suffer some big consequences for it. But right now, Apple's the one who specifically defied a court order. And we'll see if the Northern District of California state's attorney, files some criminal contempt proceedings. Who knows? But I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. This is just legalese.
You know what? I got to say this. I read that whole quote on my iPhone. So I'm just saying. The irony is not beyond me.
Yeah, Apple knows that you're reading their contempt proceedings. Oof, yeah. This won't go well 100%. For us. Any minute now, they'll slow down your iPhone as retribution.
Well, y'all, that has been our show. Episode 341 is a wrap, but before we go, we have one last segment called What We've Been Watching and What We've Been Playing, where we talk about just that, the cool, nerdy stuff we've been into across all platforms. And if you're here live, you got a job to do, because I can tell you this, I don't have a ton of free time, but I am always looking for cool, nerdy stuff to get into. Mac, what you been watching, what you been playing, man?
I have honestly not been playing or watching all that much. I have had a friend who has visited, so we've spent a lot of time just hanging out in the meat space. But
in the what?
In the meat space.
What does that even mean, bro?
Well, it's not the cyberspace, it's the meat space.
So in person? Is that what that means?
In person. 100%. I can't believe you've never heard meat space before. Maybe they don't.
I've never.
Maybe they don't call it that on your side of the Mississippi. I think this might just be a West Mississippi type thing, I guess.
Yeah, but I don't know. I grew up over there, so I don't know. But anyway, continue.
Anyway, so we've just been having a good time. Been watching some Taskmaster. The new season's dropped, and they've got their first American on, Jason Mantzoukas, and he's doing a great job. So yeah, that's what I'll highlight. Mr. Nice Guy, what about you?
Well, someone just asked me in the chat if I've been watching the NBA playoffs, and I have been watching a little bit. I watched probably like 6 minutes of the fourth quarter last night of Houston and Golden State, and saw Steph Curry and Buddy Hield go off on the Houston Rockets. So, yeah, I've been enjoying the NBA playoffs a little bit. Last of Us Season 2, I really, really enjoy it. Shout out to Bella for doing a great job playing the role of Ellie. And as far as playing, I just bought a new game today, which is silly because I have so many things to do. But Nine Souls, a game that I've been waiting to get into for a long time, is on sale on Steam for 40% off. And that's the cheapest it's ever been. So I decided to pick that bad boy up for my Steam Deck and play something that's similar to Hollow Knight. And, lots of stuff. I'll tell you this, Mac, of all the handhelds I own, of all the consoles that I own, the one that gets the most play as of late is that Analog Pocket. Dude, there's something about those retro cartridges. Even when I'm playing ROMs, I just have a blast. The form factor is great. I love the Analog Pocket. So
fantastic.
I feel like I haven't ended an episode in a while. I feel like I don't know how to do this.
Yeah, Mr. Nice Guy, would you be so kind as to take us home?
Yeah, I'll try. I mean, I'm stumbling over my words right now. Thank you for tuning in to episode 341 of Two Nerds in a Pod. We appreciate each and every one of you for being here. Be kind and be excellent to everyone you come across. Karma's real, y'all. Keep it nerdy. Deuces. Bye.
Bye.